Thank you. This government obviously saw the pandemic as an opportunity to shovel money to their friends. We saw this with the multiple ethics breaches by members of this government for giving contracts to liberal insiders and personal friends. And while the government may say that all the spending was justified and necessary due to the pandemic, your own office stated that $204.5 billion, roughly 36% in spending from March 2020 to April 2022 was not pandemic related. And despite all this extra spending, or maybe because of all the extra spending, Canadians are worse off. All we need to do is look at the example of the ArriveCan scam and your own observations or concerns in response to a question I asked today regarding the increase in spending versus the performance of the public service. My question to you would be, how will the cost of the increased debt that we have incurred as a result of this wasteful spending affect the government's ability to deliver services moving forward?
So it's an interesting question in the sense that it's something that the government has to pay, that we have to pay regardless of future decisions, because the debt is the debt and we have to pay interest on it. So we can look at what would have happened had we not seen an increase in debt, or what would have happened in the absence of increases in interest rates. And a simple way to look at that is to assume what would happen without the increase in debt servicing costs. And the simple answer is that it's money that could have been spent on other things, or for example, reducing taxes, or spent on other proposals. But that's a highly hypothetical scenario because we don't know exactly what would have happened in the absence of this additional debt servicing costs, because that would have meant decisions that would have led us in a different track, obviously.
So I'll ask the question a little bit differently. Should the debt carrying costs have an impact on planned spending for the upcoming year?
They will undoubtedly have an impact, because the moment you have to provide or use some of your more of your revenues towards servicing the debt, it means lower spending on other things, other priorities, other things being equal, of course.
In your report, you mention that the estimates include a $1.4 billion acquisition of shares in the Canada Growth Fund. And I'm sure Canadians would appreciate understanding what this Canada Growth Fund means, and a $1.4 billion acquisition of shares. Is this $1.4 billion in addition to the $15 billion that was earmarked for this fund, or is it simply a part of it?
My understanding is that it is a part of it, but it's not something that we have done a report on. But my understanding at this point is that it's one part. It's part of the $15 billion.
Are you aware if this new Canada Growth Fund is going to be set up in a similar way to the Green Slush Fund?
I'm not aware of the governance issues around the Canada Growth Fund. Not yet.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have for you is in the Department of Public Works and Government Services estimates, there is a line, Vote 1C, funding for a cybersecurity certification program for defense contracts. That was in budget 2023 at $798,000. Can you tell me, is this for defense contractors that are employed by the government?
I don't know exactly the details of this item.
It's a bit of an interesting question, given the witness we had here at committee last week, who was the chief security officer for a company that was contracted by the government, who it would appear did no real work when it came to those security assessments. And so I'd be really interested to know if we're funding individuals within the public service, or if this is supposed to help those external consultants actually check off a box when they're looking to procure contracts with the government?
I think that's a question that would be better answered by the Deputy Minister at PSPC or the Minister,
Thank you.
unfortunately.
And we have them Wednesday, so you can re-ask them.